Okay, let's start today's class. And today we will have the lecture number 6, and 3 more classes will left after this class. Then we will complete this subject. Okay, so today we have lecture number 6, and today we will discuss L2 assessment criteria 2.3, which is explain the requirements of the proposed information system. So we have to explain different requirements for the proposed system. Proposed system means which we are going to develop, and we have decided to develop information system. So for that system we have to explain the different requirements. So the indicative content which is included in this assessment criteria is requirement elicitation. Then in requirement elicitation, you have requirement capture, requirement analysis, requirement specification, and requirement report. So one by one we will see these, and let's see. Okay, so requirement elicitation, elicitation is the first and fundamental phase in the development of an information system. So in this we have to gather the requirements, and we have to communicate with different stakeholders, and we have to check what are the needs of the system by the stakeholders, and how we have to carry out those needs within the information system. So it involves gathering the needs and expectations of the stakeholders such as users, business owners, and technical teams to ensure the system delivers the desired outcomes. Okay, so we have to check the different requirements from different stakeholders so that the proposed system which we are going to develop, it should meet the requirements of the user, and it should deliver the requirements which are desired are expected by different stakeholders. So this process helps in understanding the problem space and defining what the system should accomplish. Now, to conduct successful elicitation, a variety of techniques we can use. For example, interviews we can use. We have discussed previously surveys, focus groups, document analysis, and observation. So these are the different techniques which we can use for elicitation of requirements. Okay, so interviews, like we have to do face-to-face interviews, or we can do formal or informal interviews. We can do surveys. Okay, we can design survey forms and distribute to the people, and then we can get the responses. Then focus group, these are the specified group of people who can share their you can say experiences and their viewpoints regarding the system needs. Then document analysis, these are the documents which are available previously for the system, and we can go through them, and then we can observe the system in the field. So like where in the working environment we can observe the system. So these are the different techniques we can use for gathering the information regarding the information system, or we can say requirements of the information system. So it is important to engage with all relevant stakeholders, as their input helps identify functional and non-functional requirements, system constraints, and potential challenges. So when we engage with different stakeholders, we talk to them, we gather information, we ask different questions from them to get the relevant information. So it will help us to identify like which functional requirements are which non-functional requirements they are demanding from the expected proposed information system. So all the details we can get from the stakeholders. Do you have any question in this slide?
No, ma'am.
So the process should be iterated as new requirements may surface. As a deeper understanding of the system purpose develops. Requirement elicitation also includes dealing with ambiguities, conflicting needs, and ensuring that the captured requirements are realistic and achievable. So definitely, basically, we can iterate this process like when we are going to develop the system. Okay, so in the development stage, most of time we like it clicks on our mind, like we can add this functionality, we can add this option, we can add this component to this system. So we can review the, or we can say we can iterate the requirement elicitation process, and then we can implement those due requirements in the system. So once we do requirement elicitation, it includes the dealing with ambiguities, like whatever the ambiguities or difficulties we find are different conflicting needs between different stakeholders. Like one stakeholder is saying that we have to add this option, other one is saying no, I don't need this in the system. So these are the different conflicting needs. We have to capture them, and we have to then include those needs which are agreed by all stakeholders, so that all the stakeholders needs could be met. Okay, then whatever the requirements we capture, okay, they should be realistic and achievable. It doesn't they should not be unrealistic, like we say that we have to add such requirements which are not possible or unrealistic in this system. So effective elicitation results in a comprehensive list of system requirements which will serve as the foundation for subsequent phases of the project. Misunderstanding user needs or overlooking essential aspect during this phase can lead to system failure or the creation of a product that doesn't meet the user expectation. So definitely, when once we get the requirements from the stakeholders, so we have to document those requirements. So sometimes the persons are the people in the team who are gathering the requirements maybe misunderstood the requirements which they have gathered from different stakeholders. So if there is misunderstanding in understanding the needs or the requirements given by the stakeholders, so definitely when we implement those requirements which are not required by the stakeholder, but we are implementing them within this system, so definitely it causes us the system failure, like the required system is not proposed for the stakeholders and they may reject the system. So definitely it will be lost for the development team. Then we have requirement capture. So requirement capture is also a process of documenting the information gathered during the elicitation phase. So whatever the requirements we have gathered from different stakeholders, now it's processed to document, like we have to write them in a proper format in the in a document format, so that we can check what are the important requirements, what are the requirements which are on priority basis, and what are the requirements which are conflicting with the different stakeholders, so how we have to deal with those requirements. So this requirement capture make it easy. So this step involves translating verbal, visual, and informal information into a structured written form. It ensures that all stakeholders have a common understanding of the system's requirements. So all the verbals are like sometimes stakeholder provide verbal information, visual like diagrams or different images regarding requirements, how the system will work. So all the requirements we have to capture, we have to document in a structured form within a document or a report form, so that we can understand, we can ensure that all the stakeholders have common understanding of the system's requirements. So at this stage, the information is carefully recorded in a format that will be easy to review, refine, and communicate throughout the project life cycle. And capturing requirements involves compiling detailed description of functional requirements. So functional requirements include what the system must do, like what are the core functionality the system must do when we are going to develop. So all those requirements, all those functionalities come into functional requirements, and non-functional requirements are included, like the speed, the performance, and the, you can say, response from the system to the user queries. So these are all included in the non-functional requirements. So we have to through requirement capture, we can capture these requirements, functional and non-functional, in detail, and user interactions, data flows, system interfaces, and any constraints such as budget, timeline, and technology limitations. So all these things we do in the requirement capture phase, in which we can add we can document the different functional and non-functional requirements which we gathered, we have elicited from different stakeholders. And then what are the different user interactions? User interactions means how the user will interact with the system. So how the user will log in to the, okay, user is going to log into the system, okay, then it's have the onboarding process, then set up account for the user, okay. So all these necessary steps are included in the user interaction. Then the user can perform different tasks which are available in the system. Then data flows, how the data will flow from one module to other module, from one component of the system to other component. Then system interfaces means how the system interface, like front end of the system look like, and how the different options will be available in the main screen or in the home screen of the system. And then any constraints such as budget, timeline, and technology limitations we have to include. So what to budget we have to mention for this development, like what will be the budget, total cost of developing this project, this information system, how much time required, or what are the technology limitations which we need to focus on. So all these things we have to mention in the requirement capture phase, and we have to document them. Then we have these captured requirements often take the form of use cases, user stories, data models, and user interfaces mockups. So use cases means like we develop different use cases, okay. So like use cases are diagrams in which we add different actors, okay, and we define that this actor is mandatory or this is not mandatory. They will definitely interact with the system, and these are the options which this primary actor can like we have primary actor and secondary actor. Primary actor are the main, we can say, like admin type actors are users who can view the system main functionalities, and the secondary actors are those which often use the system and they don't have access to core features of the system. So through use cases, through user stories and data models, through different diagrams like ERD diagrams or activity diagrams, we can check like how the system will work when it's actually developed. Okay, so user interface mockups, these are the design screens. Like in the interface mockups, we design different screens and then we implement them through code or in the development environment. So we can use different software online like Figma tool, we can use Corel, like these type of tools we can use for user interface mockup designs. Then the goal of this step is to ensure that every requirement is well understood, clearly defined, and documented in a way that can be referred to in future stages of the project. So we have to ensure that all the requirements which we have gathered from the stakeholders should be well understood. Clearly, we should define them and we should document them in such a way like we can check them in the development stages. Like, okay, we have this login screen design, and we have to add the registration form, we have to add the you can say payment option, we have to add the categories option. So all these stages, like all these requirements should be clearly defined, and step by step when we implement through code through in the development environment, we can go through that documented you can say file, and then we can check, okay, yes, we have completed this stage, we have completed this module, we have completed this component. Then good requirements capture minimizes in good requirement capture minimizes ambiguity and creates a clear, comprehensive reference for the development team to follow. Okay, so do you have any question in this slide?
No. No, ma'am.
Okay. So next we have requirement analysis. So again, the requirement analysis is the process in which we review and refine and prioritize the captured requirements to ensure that they align with the overall project objectives. So we have to prioritize the requirements, like these are the mandatory requirements, we need to implement them on priority basis. These are the requirements which we can delay and it will not affect the project development. Okay, so we have to in the requirement analysis stage, we review and refine the requirements again, and then prioritize, like what are the necessary requirements and what are not the requirements which are not much necessary, so we can do them or we can include them later in later stages. Then it involves examining the gathered information to identify inconsistencies, ambiguities, or potential conflicts between requirements. This step is crucial to ensure that the system will meet user needs without unnecessary complexity or conflicting features. So in this phase, we examine that all the gathered requirements, all the requirement which we have gathered are in all the things are the details which we have gathered from different stakeholders using different techniques. We should identify the any inconsistencies if they have or any ambiguities, so that we can remove them, and then we can uh, have the clear and structured information about the requirements of the system, so that we can implement those structured and necessary requirements within the system. Okay, then during the requirement analysis, stakeholders and the project team work together to validate the captured requirements, verify that they are feasible, okay, and prioritize them according to business goals. So whatever the uh, requirements we gather in the requirement analysis, stakeholders and project team work together, and they will communicate with each other, and they validate the captured requirements and clarify verify that okay, this is the feasible requirement, okay, this is the required thing which we need, or this is the main component which we want it to be in the system, and then they prioritize the requirements and to meet the business goals. So like whatever the business goals are, so according to that they prioritize the requirements, and then they begin the development of the information system. Okay, so what are the benefits? Like the analysis also help in identifying any technical or resource constraints which could impact the feasibility of some requirements, and then techniques like, for example, process modeling, data flow diagrams, and object modeling are often used in this phase to gain a clearer understanding of the system functionality. So these are the different types of diagrams through which we can diagrammatically check how the system will work, how the design should be, how the development stage will be, and how we can include different modules in the system, we can include different components in the system, and how each component will interact with the other component, and if any component have any dependency on any component, so how we should deal those dependencies. So this is how we all do all the work in the requirement analysis. Okay, so once the requirements are analyzed, they are typically categorized into critical, high priority, and low priority items. So this step also involves identifying dependencies between requirements, as some features may rely on the completion of others, as a well conducted analysis ensure that only the most important and viable requirements are included in the final specification. So this is what we have discussed a moment ago. So we have to prioritize, and we have to categorize the different requirements, and we have to categorize like which is the high priority, which is low priority item, or which are the critical requirements which we need to implement them, and what are the requirements which we can uh, skip. Okay, so next we have requirement specification. So requirement specification is the design, is the stage where the analyzed requirements are formally documented in a detailed, structured manner. So in this phase, we you can say formally document, like formally we make report, we make proposals, and then make detailed information about the requirements in a structured manner. So this document serves as a contract between the stakeholder and the development team, defining exactly what the system will deliver. Okay, so it's like you can say it's a type of proposal in which all the requirements, all the contract are mentioned. Like these are the main components of the system. These are the functional functionalities of the system. These are the non-functional component of the system which we are going to implement in the system. Like these are given by the are mentioned by the team, development team, and then they provide this to stakeholders, and the stakeholders then can check, and they also mention like these are the service charges, these are the payment plans, like how you have to pay us for the service of developing of this information system, how we like after development and deployment we will support your system, we will support you in understanding the system, so how it will cost you. So these type of all these things are mentioned in this requirement specification document, and then it provided to the stakeholders. Okay, so it provides a clear, unambiguous reference for both development and testing, ensuring that all parties understand the project scope and expectations. So in a typical requirement specification includes both functional and non-functional requirements. Functional requirements outline the specific actions the system must perform, such as user authentication, data processing, and reporting. A non-functional requirement, on the other hand, specify system attributes like performance, reliability, scalability, and security. So in the this is like a proposal type document in which we define the like some type of background of the system. Okay, and then we mention the details regarding functional and non-functional requirements. Then we mention the data models, like visually represent the system, how the system will work, how the different components will interact, and then we like mention the different requirements, technical requirements which are needed for the system to be implemented. Okay, so all these type of information mentioned in the this requirement specification document. Okay, so the specification document should be clear, concise, and free from ambiguity, make it easy for both technical and non-technical stakeholders to understand. Okay, so technical and non-technical means technical stakeholder means like the development teams, okay, they which who know the like what are the different components means, and non-technical means they which don't have any like in-depth knowledge of, like for example, which programming languages will be used, what are the different tools will be used for design of the system, what are the different like platforms on which the system will be developed. So these are the details which non-technical stakeholders don't understand. So the document in which we are mentioning the details should be clear so that non-technical users can also understand those things. Like some are the technical terms which maybe non-technical stakeholders cannot understand, so we have to like give a like simple terms for different options. Okay, it may also include system interface description, user interaction flows, and validation rules. Additionally, acceptance criteria should be defined so that stakeholders can verify whether the system meets the agreed upon requirements or not. Okay, so acceptance criteria means like we have to make a checklist uh, so that like we can check, okay, this you can say this component is fulfilled, okay, this functionality is fulfilled, this function is added to the function, so we can mark those points as checked, and then we can you can say verify that, okay, now this system will be accepted uh, by the stakeholders after the development. Okay, a well-prepared requirement specification serve as the blueprint for the system design, development, and testing, ensuring that the system meets the needs of the users and stakeholders. Okay, so do you have any question in this slide?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So next we have requirement report. So again, this is also a comprehensive document in which we are adding all the points which we have discussed previously. We are adding it in a summarized form, and we make a proper report in which we add different details, and then we can keep that report with us, and we can provide copies to the stakeholders also for final reference of the proposed system. Okay, the requirements report is a comprehensive document that summarizes all the elicited, captured, analyzed, and specified requirements in one cohesive format. Okay, it is an essential deliverable that consolidate all the work done throughout the requirement engineering process, offering a final reference document for both the development team and stakeholders. So in the report, we mention all the detailed information regarding the listed requirements, captured requirements, analyzed requirements, and the final specified requirements. And then we can keep this with the stakeholders also, and with the development team also for reference as a reference document, so that the stakeholders and team should know that what team should know that what they have to develop, and stakeholder should know what they will get after the development of the information system. Okay, the requirement report provides a detailed account of the system scope, including description of the functional and non-functional requirements, system architecture, interface, and constraints. It may also include any assumptions made during the requirement gathering process, as well as potential risk or uncertainties that could impact the project. So functional and non-functional requirements, we know system architecture, like how the user will interact with the system, like what are the primary actors, what are the secondary actors, what are the different authentication or security measures which we need to implement, so that the primary actor have more access to the system and secondary actor has less interaction with the system. And assumptions made during requirement gathering means, like may be sometime unfortunate scene, or due to some extra requirements the budget can increase, the budget of the system development can be increased, or maybe sometime the team project team, maybe some team member leave the project, okay, in the middle. So definitely it will cause burden for the remaining team members, and it will delay effect in the project timeline frame. Okay, so maybe project cannot be delivered on time. So these type of consideration or uncertainties will be mentioned in the requirement report. Okay. Then the report is often accompanied by visual aids such as diagrams, flowcharts, or wireframes, which helps to clarify complex requirements. It serves as a communication tool to ensure that everyone involved in the project, from developers to business stakeholders, is on the same page regarding the system scope and objectives. So this is the report. So in the report, you have to add like detailed information regarding the system. You have to add the visual aids, diagrams, flow charts, wireframes. Okay, so these type of all the diagrams you have to include in the report, so that you can check like how the uh, different components of this system will work and communicate within this system. And we have to check like the stakeholders and developers are on the same page regarding the scope and objectives of the system. Then the requirement report is typically finalized before the design phase begins. At any changes to the requirement after this point can be considered change requests that must be evaluated and approved. Therefore, it is crucial that this report is thorough, precise, and well understood by all stakeholders, ensuring a successful transition from planning to implementation. So definitely, if we have completed a one report for the proposed system, and now in the design process again someone or any stakeholder is demanding like new requirements in the system or new functionality in the system. So definitely it will take time to implement, and it we can say that this is the change request for the system. And we have to first we have to evaluate that changes. Like to evaluate means like we have to check whether this functionality which is newly come from any stakeholder, it has the impact with the, is it going to impact the system positively, or it create like complexity to the previously designed requirements. So we have to evaluate first, and then we have to approve. Like if it's don't have any negative impact, so we can carry with these change requests, or we can include those functionality. But if it's making any complexities with the proposed information system, so we should stop that one. Okay, so all these so this report, the requirement report, should be precise and well understood by all stakeholders, so that we can ensure that the transition from planning to implementation should be like it should be uh, in a thorough form, and then we can say that all the requirements, all the steps we are going to do in from planning to implementation are at you can say normal pace, and we are following all the stages in a sequence. Okay, so this is for today. Do you have any question till now? You can ask. Otherwise, we will end this meeting.
No, ma'am.
Okay.